Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is more than just Dark Souls in space. In fact, it's way more like Sekiro than anything else, but that's not really the point. The gameplay, the feel, and unfortunately for me, the story is completely Star Wars through and through. So, why the comparisons to Dark Souls other than being journalistic shorthand for, I need some clicks, and it's a meme at this point? Well, it has more to do with the combat taking some inspiration with a much bigger focus on parrying, blocking, and getting ganged up on and smacked around if you aren't careful. Oh, also, there's bonfires, so yeah, I guess it is Dark Souls. But this game also has difficulty options, so again, the comparisons are mainly surface level. Just because game hard doesn't mean it's a Dark Souls clone, and while there are no doubt things that show the inspiration from FromSoft, I think saying it's just a Dark Souls clone is a discredit to what Respawn were trying to do here. I think that Respawn crafted a game to give a different experience from our last time taking control of a lightsaber-wielding, force-pushing Jedi turn not Jedi turn Jedi again. It wouldn't have made sense for this game to be like The Force Unleashed, even though I'd love another one, please, 2 was garbage, because our main character is supposed to be untrained, unfocused, and just not on the same level as the heavy hitters people usually know. So the gameplay has to be slower, and it has to have more purpose. In my review of Jedi Academy, I talked about how you're just kind of flailing around in the game hoping to hit something. That isn't how this game works. You need to be deliberate. You gotta think ahead, and while I was this close to saying you need to think like a Jedi, I don't know if I should really be that corny. I mean, I did anyway, so I guess I am. For me, if I had to make some type of comparison to another franchise, I'd say this game has more in common with Uncharted or Tomb Raider with the style of gameplay because there's actually a lot of variety in it. Combat is straightforward, but it's so clean. You get what you'd expect. Fast and strong attacks, blocking, force moves like pushing and pulling, but you also get a slow move that you use to slow things. Like I said, it's straightforward, but there are so many dope additions to make things more interesting. My favorite is how different lightsaber variations come into play. You start out with the basic single, but after you get to choose where you want to go next, if you listen to the dialogue and go to the planet they warn you against going, you get the double noodle early and you can switch between them on the fly depending on what you need to get done. Since I did find the combos to be a little lacking, being able to switch sabers even mid-combo with an upgrade was always fun. You even get another one late in the game, but this is going to be mainly spoiler-free since the game is still fairly new. Also, being able to deflect blaster shots like this is just perfecto. From this, the biggest issue kind of comes from the camera not properly locking on, which, if you're gonna do a game like this, really needs to be spot on because there's way too many times you'll get bonked from a dude that you couldn't see because he's off screen. For how you get around, it's a little less finesse and way more janky, but it's not too bad. Trying to turn when running is a little too stiff for my taste. Pause. But I probably shouldn't be running in this type of environment anyway. But you're not always just running around. You'll be swinging from ropes, solving puzzles, reliving your childhood by sliding down ice caves and just having the most fun until you encounter the absolute worst part of the game, the performance issues. So I played this on the OG Xbox One, and while I'm sure the One X and Series X will play this better, at least I hope so, on the Xbox One, there's parts of this game that feel like you're playing the alpha, and it's not actually coming out for another 2 years. But the performance isn't just bad in gameplay, it's actually somehow terrible in cutscenes. Audio will clip, the scene will stutter, and textures will pop in and out like you're playing peekaboo with geometry. It's the absolute worst on Kashyyyk, and while the issue never actually completely goes away, it seemed to be more stable as you progress through the game. And I'm really only harping on this because this game really isn't that big or that long, so I don't even understand why it has this issue. Sure, there's some set pieces that look amazing.
Did you see it? Did you see it?
But does it look better than this?
No.
Or this?
No.
Or this?
Hell no.
Or this? Okay, maybe not that one, but all the other games are 4 or 5 years old at this point, are around the same size or even larger, and I never had any problem running those games. Again, my Xbox One is getting up in age, and we might have to send Buddy to the great gaming retirement home in the sky, but the performance is just such a stain on this game for me. Another part of this game that I don't really like is the level design, but what I'm specifically talking about is the level environment design. It is the most generic and stereotypical Star Wars-y levels that I'm 90% sure is in every game. There's the snowy planet, the military installation planet, Kashyyyk, or the Big Forest planet. Like, I understand that the Empire has been destroying planets, taking them over, and terraforming, but like, could we get more science labs, or maybe stormtrooper training facilities, or I don't know, show me where the Emperor gets his nice robes from. At least show me something that I haven't seen already before. I would have loved a section where you had to try to integrate back into society after the Jedi Massacre, or actually hiding out in a way that doesn't get thrown away in the first hour of the game. And here's where my issues with this game and Star Wars in general come from. So I'm not the biggest fan of Star Wars for 3 main reasons. 1, I don't think it's anything special. 2, it's a collection of cool ideas, but nothing ever gets done with the cool ideas. And 3, it's obsessed with things that just don't matter. And this game's story ticks off all 3 of those boxes. Considering that I don't see myself reviewing anything Star Wars related for a while, I figure I might as well use this game as a case study on all the things that I think are wrong with Star Wars. So starting off, it's nothing special. For this game, I find it even worse because it's nothing special as a game story, and it's nothing special as a Star Wars story. Characters are either amalgamations of other Star Wars characters or just straight up ripoffs. There's Seer, the teacher character who lies or is just vague about their past at first and then decides to tell the truth. BD-1, every other droid that has ever been in Star Wars. The Ninth Sister, a character with a helmet on that is related to our heroes in some way. And I'm sure if I knew more about Star Wars, I'd be able to make more connections, but even 3 is just too much for me. At least they brought Saw into this one for like 2 hours, and he's voiced by Forrest Whitaker, which is cool. I mean, he has more dialogue and plot relevance than he did in Rogue One, so I'm sure he just wanted another chance at playing the character more than anything else. And just looking at the broad scope of this game's story, since it takes place during the Skywalker saga, but not during a time that would actually be interesting like between 6 and 7, we know as an audience that nothing that happens in this game has any real impact for anything else. And for Star Wars as a whole, I don't really see the appeal of Star Wars anymore. Back in the 70s and 80s, oh yeah, this was revolutionary, but like now, I look at Star Wars like I look at the Fast and the Furious. It's something you watch if you want to see something cool, but all the moments outside of that aren't really worth it for me. Also, I
got family.
Over,
May the Force be with you.
but I'm probably alone in that one. And I'm not saying that Star Wars is bad, so don't get to typing away your college dissertation on why it's actually the best multimedia entity of all time. I'm just saying that making it out to be anything other than a
Film for 12-year-olds.
kinda makes you bugged. Okay, so it's a collection of cool ideas but does nothing with them. So the game's premise and driving force is that it takes place after the Jedi Massacre and one of the last remaining Jedi tries to rebuild the Jedi Order after being on the run for years.
That's pretty interesting.
Okay, cool. What does the game do with that premise? Go to 3 dungeons, fight the Empire sometimes, and have some space wizard visions. Not really what you think the game would be about. I mean, it's really about forgiveness and no one is without redemption, but Star Wars did that at least 2 times that I know of, and it's also not special, which circles back to the first point. And again, I actually really like what this game tried to do for the most part. When it's not stuttering, the game is as smooth as Professor X sipping a smoothie, but the story is not where my enjoyment comes from. Being able to use your force powers outside of combat for puzzles and shortcuts is cool, and when you have to combine them, I love it. I love being able to use different saber styles and switching between them. I just wish that there was more there. To me, I think this game relies on the Star Wars brand a little too much instead of trying to be something that takes the brand and elevates it. Back to Star Wars in general, it's the same thing. Things like the Force and lightsabers and the Jedi and Sith and all these concepts that do make Star Wars stand out are never used in a way that is consistent, makes sense, or really all that interesting. The Force is space magic. It can do whatever the writers want it to, and it does a lot of bullshit that the writers want it to, but when is it ever different? Maybe I need to just dive into the background info and the stuff outside of the movies, but the Force isn't something that I think is ever used in a way that's actually interesting. Specifically with lightsabers, I've recently been exposed as a sword guy, and I love lightsabers. But again, the coolest parts of lightsabers always seem to be the hilt, or who made it, or who had it before, and not how they're used. And I know that there's different stances, styles, and schools of fighting, but when is that ever really important? We never see certain styles being more effective than others. We never see lightsabers being used in any different ways other than a glowy beat stick. And since the Jedi and Sith were designed to just be representations of good and evil, I'm not really gonna be that mad that they're not always the most in-depth characters. But I do wish there was just a teeny bit more given to what the point of the Sith and Jedi even is. And finally, this game is just obsessed with things that don't matter. There's multiple times where a character is supposed to be giving their backstory and it's supposed to be emotional, and we see that moment again hours later, but now the characters have a different perspective for no reason other than they saw it in a space wizard vision. Characters also just seem to explain their personalities rather than us seeing it organically, and we spend enough time with the characters for genuine interactions to happen, but it always just feels like throwaway water cooler talk. Grease, who is a character who is with you almost the entirety of the game, gets one interesting character moment in the whole game where we get a different look at the Empire, but it gets swept away and never brought up again. Maybe it is if you talk to him in between missions, but I look at that as sort of side content which is supposed to amplify the main story, not be required. Then there's a character that joins your team, no joke, max 2 hours before the ending, and she just really had no reason being there like at all. I was genuinely confused because I thought the game was winding down by the time she joined, so I was like, oh, okay, there must be some extra planets to go to and it's gonna be longer. But nope, she cloaks the ship once, offers up some valid criticism of the team's plans, which are not brought up again, and then it just seems like she's there for the sequel. And oh my god, I almost forgot about Cal Chuchesta, the main character, because I think he's boring for about 90% of the game, until you see how he felt when
Order 66
happens.
Baby, what is you doing, baby?
He is the most generic protagonist with a troubled past I think I've ever seen. For Star Wars in general, again, characters and entire storylines revolve around some of the least interesting aspects of the wider story, and I don't understand why. The OG trilogy focuses on basic good and evil, which is fine, and it was the first one, so I'm not really gonna harp on it too much, especially since I do think that it works to establish things like why the Empire is bad, so again, it's fine. For the prequels, although I've only experienced 2 out of the 3 from LEGO Star Wars, I think that was the best way because they're a waste of time, and I don't even know what the point of the new trilogy is because I haven't seen Rise of Skywalker, but New Hope 2 focused on Finn and Rey, when in the next movie, they barely even interact, which seems like a step in the wrong direction. But again, even with all these faults, I don't hate Star Wars, and I definitely don't hate this game, especially when this game almost tricked me into liking Star Wars in the last hour because it's non-stop action and actually interesting character moments that had decent build-up. I hate the ending, but I hate abrupt sequel-baiting endings ever since Halo 2 scarred me for life. This game really is a mixed bag. Some might even call it a grab bag.
You are so corny.
Okay. And even though the last hour of the game is one of my favorite video game experiences in a while, because you can't actually go back and play it again for some unknown reason, it's still not great to me. It's not bad by any means. I'd still recommend this game because its gameplay systems are great. I just wish I liked it more. Oh, and remember,
It's just a movie. It's pretend. You're an adult. You should know that.
yell at me in the comment section below. Mayhaps, like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.